Monsoon was finally dead. The demon's body lied motionlessly in the shallows, the water surrounding it slowly turning a faint shade of red. The soldiers of Ohu returned to the shore, panting and dripping with seawater. Weary smiles were etched onto their faces as they looked each other over for injuries. The dead had finally been avenged. Ohu was no longer under the pursuit of a dog-eating psychopath. The war was finally over. Orion shook his coat, keeping a tight grip on the scythe he'd used to slit Monsoon's throat. Though the fighting was over, and Akame would, no doubt, come to claim it from him, holding the scythe gave Orion a sense of victory. Most of Monsoon's blood had been washed away in the sea, but what little remained on the blade, Orion could smell. There was no doubt in his mind he'd done it. He killed the bastard. No! A shrill yell suddenly cut through the air. The Ohu army fell silent, the dogs all turning to look towards the rocky cliff overlooking the beach. Cross and Sirius had been on these cliffs for the entirety of the battle. Sirius because of the injuries on his back, and Cross because someone needed to keep an eye on him. Before the battle, Sirius had been so weak that he couldn't stand. Now, he was up on his paws, preparing to jump from the edge of the cliff. No! Sirius! Cross cried out in alarm, leaping forward to grab the young male by the scruff of his neck. Sirius's eyes, once vacant and lifeless, were now blazing in cold fury. With a growl, he swung his head back, bashing Cross in the chin. Cross staggered back with a yelp. Why, you don't touch me! Sirius snapped at her. His eyes began darting madly, searching for familiar faces in the crowd. Damn you! Damn you all! It wasn't supposed to go like this! I was supposed to fix him! I was supposed to love him! Sirius, murmured Gin, stepping forward. You need to understand, there was no fixing him. He was a monster, and he needed to die for all our sake. Shut up! Frothy saliva was now dripping from the corners of Sirius's maw. Just shut up, damn it! You're all wicked! Every last one of you! Especially... His icy eyes now fell on Orion. You! Everyone turned to look at Orion. The two brothers had been butting heads for months now, and with the sickle in his possession, an attack from Orion would have easily spelled death for Sirius. Orion stared unflinchingly at Sirius, his teeth digging into the sickle's wooden handle. I'm wicked, eh? Orion finally replied, in a voice that was oddly calm. Heh, that's rich coming from the guy in love with a homicidal maniac. He wasn't like that, Sirius argued, leaping down onto the sand. Aside from a staggering gait, he seemed to be able to walk perfectly fine. Cross stood at the cliff's edge, trying once more to reach the blue brindle. Please, Sirius, she called. You're not thinking straight. Come back and rest, all right? He wasn't like that, echoed Orion, his eyes widening with disbelief. Oh, so Lydia, Hiro, Kenshin, Musashi, Jaguar, everyone else who's dead? That didn't happen, right? God, you really are delusional, aren't you? Orion, that's enough. Weed finally spoke up. He rushed between his sons, shooting a warning glare at the red male. Be quiet and let me deal with Sirius. Oh, no. A sly grin stretched across Orion's muzzle. I want to hear how else this idiot tries to excuse Monsoon's actions. Listen up, everyone. Sirius is going to tell us how Monsoon is just so sweet and kind and never try to hurt anyone. Hurrah! Sirius screamed. Without warning, he charged. Weed acted quickly, rearing onto his hind legs and grasping the younger brindle with his forelegs. Enough, damn it! Weed snapped. Orion isn't worth it, Sirius. Go back to Cross right now. That's an order. Stop protecting him, Weed, said Orion. Weed, taken aback, glanced back at him in surprise. What? Sirius is an adult, and so am I. He wants to fight. Orion bowed slightly, his brow furrowing and his lips curling back to show off his fangs. Then let's fight. No, Weed muttered. No, I can't allow. His words fell on deaf ears. Orion had made his decision long ago that Weed was no father of his. Back during that winter, when Weed beat his young body against the snow. Now, Orion was disowning a brother. If Sirius loved that bear so much that he'd forsake his own kind, then they could rot in hell together. With another battle cry, Sirius pushed past his father, advancing towards Orion again. Orion stood where he was, watching, waiting, until Sirius got close enough. When the moment was right, Orion sprang forward, moving to the side just as Sirius tried to bite down on his shoulder. Swinging the scythe, the sharp tip plunged into the blue brindle's exposed back, tearing into the already damaged flesh. Yeah! Sirius screamed, arching his back in some hopeless attempt to rid himself of the pain. Fresh blood spurted out onto the sand. Weed looked towards Gin, his ears falling back against his head. Father, stop this! Please! Sirius will die! To Weed's surprise, Gin didn't move. The old Akita didn't even respond, instead gazing out on the fight with an expression Weed couldn't read. None of the Ohu soldiers stepped in, their old smiles being replaced with firm frowns. Others looked away, continuing to tend to their comrades. It seemed everyone felt the same way. There was no point in stopping this fight, not because of Orion's rage, but because Sirius needed to be stopped. His interfering, his messiah complex, his self-righteousness, he was a mockery to the name of Ohu, to the name of Riki. If the fool truly believed he was right, then it was certain his meddling wouldn't end here, if he didn't snap and try to kill other members of his family next. Perhaps it was better this way. Realizing he was now on his own, Weed turned back to the fight, preparing to break it up himself. He only saw a blue blur speeding towards him. With a grunt, Weed was thrown off his paws, falling into a heap of fur as Sirius's body lay on top of him. A few feet away, Orion stared intensely at his ex-brother and father. Leaning down slightly to retrieve the sickle from the ground, he paced, never turning his gaze from his brother's body. Sirius struggled to his paws, grunting in pain as his entire back was stained with blood. Below him, Weed reached up with a paw. "Sirius," he whispered. His eyes began to sting with tears. "Don't! He'll kill you!" Anger clutched Orion's heart like a bear's claws. Sirius, Sirius, Sirius. We didn't care about anyone else but Sirius, did he? "Orion needs to be punished, father," Sirius responded. His voice was hollow, almost robotic. It was as if the mask of compassion he'd been wearing all this time had finally fallen off. "I'll be the one to bring peace to this world. But first, I need to kill off this demon." "Ha!" Orion scoffed. "Try it then, shithead!" Sirius charged again, fangs flashing in the moonlight. Orion tossed the sickle into the air, catching it after it flipped over. The tip was now facing upwards. Orion dashed at Sirius with great speed, lowering his head before suddenly swiping it, and the sickle, upwards. The blade impaled Sirius's lower jaw and tongue, not unlike Monsoon's claw when it had impaled poor Bob's mouth months back. The mongrel in question perked as he caught the reference. "Yeah!" Bob cheered, a wave of catharsis washing over him. "How do you like it, Sirius?" By now, Weed had gotten back to his paws. He turned towards Orion just in time to see the male hoisting Sirius into the air by the jaw, ignoring his whines of agony as he began slamming him into the ground again and again and again, painting the sand crimson. Weed rushed at Orion with a fierce yell, only to receive another blow from Sirius's body that sent him flying a few feet away. Orion then flung Sirius upwards, allowing his jaw to slip off the scythe's blade. Sirius flew high into the air as blood rained down from his body, tossing the scythe aside. Orion jumped into the air after his brother, his body spinning into a batoga. Everyone watched with bated breath as a disc of fur almost seemed to phase through Sirius's falling body. Suddenly, Sirius's body split vertically down the middle. The two halves fell into the sand, gushing blood. There was silence. The traitor was dead. Orion landed on his paws near the two bloody halves, panting heavily. He looked down at Sirius's remains, scowling contemptuously. "Rotten hell, you worthless sack of shit."